The train started its long journey towards Bangalore. It did not take much time for me to go to sleep. The next day early in the morning, I woke up hearing a shrill voice of a small child. I peeped out of the window to check the name of the railway station. The train has just reached Dimapur in Nagaland. As I turned around, the child, not more than 6-year-old, smiling at me unhesitantly, made herself comfortable near me by the side of the window, ignoring the pleas of the parents. They expected me to show displeasure at the child's behavior, not knowing that I would be the last person to shoo away the children. The child turned out to be a chatterbox. In no time, she proudly told me about her school, classmates and teachers. It only showed how much the children, when in small classes, love their schools and teachers. But the same children, by the time they reach the middle school, hardly have any good word about both. I often wonder who is responsible for that type of total disenchantment, the teachers or the education system. After the breakfast, the child again approached me, this time with a request to tell a story, and I did not disappoint her, as it was a nice opportunity to spend time constructively. But before me telling the story, I asked her to tell one to me, and she in her own ways narrated a well-known story of cruel cat and poor mouse. In response, I created a new story with the mouse and cat in different roles. The child seems to relish every part of it and admitted that she had never heard that story before. That only increased her appetite for more, and thus began my telling a series of stories during the next couple of days, till the girl and her parents got down at Katpadi Junction. They were on their way to a hospital for treatment to the girl's mother. She reluctantly took leave of me, but not before giving me a memorable parting gift, which only children are capable with all their innocence. Before finally getting down from the train, she came back to me at least a couple of times. I could see the impact of our interaction on her mind. From time immemorial, stories have continued to be a great source of simple, wholesome entertainment for all sections of people. That it can also be used as a wonderful tool to mold the life of people was also a known fact. It is one of the easiest ways to attract attention of the children. During my stint in Arunachal Pradesh as in charge of a string of CBSE affiliated residential and non-residential schools, I used to make use of it. I still vividly remember my first visit to Arunachal Pradesh along with one of my senior workers, Sri Bhanudas ji. It was to Oyan in January 1993. At the request of the principal Sri P.K. Pandey, I addressed the students in the prayer hall and told them a story. I hardly knew at that time that it was the first step that I have taken for many more such storytelling sessions during the next 1 decade in the Northeast. After spending a day in Oyan, we proceeded towards our next destination, Jirdin. Leaving Oyan early in the morning as pillion riders on 2 scooters, we reached Pasighat. We had to wait for a couple of hours to get the next transport to Jirdin. A big crowd was already waiting for the bus. When finally the bus arrived, we gazed into it. That the human beings were not the only passengers was soon clear to me, as I heard the noises of cocks, pigs, etc. all along the journey. The stinking smell from the urinating animals and unwashed sweaters of the co-passengers made the journey memorable. The road journey through the pristine jungles winding along the blue waters of the gurgling Siang River is still vivid in my mind. Finally, by the time we reached Along town in West Siang district, it was evening. The school bus was in the town for taking provision for the school mess. We got a lift in it and were in Jirdin by around 6 p.m. Hardly could we set our foot on the ground. There stood in front of us one of the senior lady life workers of the organization, who was also the principal of the school. She was fretting and fuming at us for reasons not known to me. She wanted nothing less than our going out of the school campus immediately. My senior colleague was visibly shaken by the red-hot carpet welcome we were given on my maiden visit to that school. He asked for my opinion. I suggested that we should leave at the earliest opportunity, as it has been one of my working principles not to be in a place or house where my presence is not welcome, even if gold is showered on me. But there was a problem in it. During those days, with poor transport facilities, the trip to our next destination, Kupurijo, was possible only the next day morning. Thus, we have no other option but to hang around the school overnight. Being unwanted guests, we reluctantly attended the evening prayers and went to the dining hall for the supper. Time seems to have mellowed the temper of the senior lady life worker, but she was still not looking into our eyes while speaking, where she revealed the reasons for her outburst. Her school children were not given sufficient time for practice and preparation for the inter-school sports and cultural meet to be held in Tafragam during the month. She felt that it was a deliberate move by Dibrugarh office to ensure poor performance from her school. She seems to settle the score with the first person visiting her school from Dibrugarh office. After supper, unaware that we were unwanted visitors, the children invited us to their hostels. There again I got another opportunity to tell a story. My senior colleague told me not to repeat the Oyan story. And I told another story, and the children listened with rapt attention. But when the story was over, the children hesitantly told me that they have heard that story before. When I was about to start another one, the children requested me to tell a story that they have not heard before. And there started my dilemma in storytelling for next couple of weeks. I seems to be running out of stock of stories by the time we reach our next destination, Kupurijo. Later, in all the schools that I visited, I noticed that children were eager to listen to stories, but seems to know the story. What I started telling, I thought that I need to do something very fast to be in reckoning of the children. I have been a storyteller right from my childhood. That trait perhaps I imbibed from my father, who was a great storyteller. As children, we used to gather around him for storytelling sessions, usually held on weekend evenings. His stories were from the epics and Puranas. I was therefore well versed in those stories and the technique of telling them. I was also aware of the great impact it created on the young minds, as having experienced it myself. Some of the values that I cherish now were directly derived from those memorable stories that I heard from my father. When I reached Arunachal Pradesh in connection with the supervision work of a string of residential schools, my storytelling trait came handy. There I had a ready crowd with the hostlers, irrespective of age group, yelling for stories. But soon I realized that most of the stories that I knew were known to the children. Perhaps they have either read them up 10 times or heard them from someone else. Thus I found myself at the receiving end with the children informing me that they knew the story the moment I began one. And I had my own compulsions. With a hectic schedule of supervision work in the schools, leaving no room for picking up new stories, I was forced to find out ways for scoring a point over the children. That, in no uncertain way, made me create stories myself, often spontaneous. Since the stories that I narrated were unheard, I instantly became a crowd puller in the school. The themes were Arunachal Pradesh, its people, places, and the children instantly identified with them. As my stay in the school was always limited, I could not complete the story most of the time. That provided opportunity to continue it during my next visit as another episode. That kept the children guessing about the endings. They remembered every detail of the story narrated earlier, emboldened me to add on more episodes to the original story, and the story slowly got converted into a novel. Once I was in the school campus, none appeared to be interested in watching the television usually made available after the dinner. That strengthened my belief that children can be weaned away from the dreaded yet powerful television if only they have an equally powerful alternative for entertainment and joy. In my hectic schedule, I could revisit a school only once in 2 months. The children were aware of that. I often notice restlessness among the children when I come to the end of a storytelling session. They were aware that their wait to know the remaining part of the story would well stretch for months. In their eagerness, very often they would ask, "Sir, why don't you tell the last part now?" I would of course decline, as myself was not sure of it. The episode that I narrated was impromptu. To keep the suspense running, I end the session with a standard phrase, "What happened next? The most interesting part will be told same time next time. Till then, good night." That only add up to the anxiety level of the children. Reluctant to go to bed, they would often circle around me, preventing my leaving the hostels. The stories that I weaved have the ingredients of what make the children riveted to the sessions. Listening to my stories, I have seen the children laughing, holding their bellies. I have noticed their eyes getting welled up with tears. I observed their eyes and mouths getting wide open. Their body language revealed the impact on their young minds. Many disclosed of having seen the hero in their dreams. The story I narrated always carried values: bravery, straightforwardness, respect for parents, elders, love and concern for the poor, physically challenged, animals, environment. Cleanliness, obedience, simplicity were often weaved into the life of the hero and heroines and other characters, with the children deeply identifying with the story. I have reasons to believe that those values would stay with the children later in their life. How much the children loved reading storybooks was evident when one day Kumari Ponnung Perme, then a class 4 girl in Jirdin, Arunachal Pradesh, suggested me to pen down the stories that I narrated. "Why?" I asked. Her reply was revealing. "Sir, you are coming to our school only once in 2 months. If you write down the stories, we can read and enjoy them in your absence also," she replied with an impish smile. "Why don't you read the story books in the library?" I gave a counter suggestion. "Sir, most of those story books are boring," Ponnung's reply baffled me. Yet that seems to be the reality seen from a child's angle. During our current visit to Teju, Lohit district, we happened to go to the Deputy Commissioner's office to meet the DC on 8 November 2013. As we were sitting in the waiting room, one young Arunachali youth, seeing me wearing the South Indian dress, came near and politely inquired, "Sir, are you from VKV?" In reply, I told him that I was in VKV a decade back. A youngster, Tayung Lucy, informed me that he was an ex-student of VKV Kupurijo and has now completed B.Tech from Gujarat. He was keen to know the whereabouts of Vishwanath sir. When I asked for the reasons, he said that during his school days in VKV Kupurijo, when the principal used to announce the impending visit of Vishwanath sir, the entire school children used to get highly excited, as it was a great opportunity to listen to some of the exciting stories. Not in a hurry to reveal my identity, I told the youngster that I could give all details about Vishwanath sir, but warned that he would not recognize that sir, even if he comes and stand in front of him, as lot of changes have taken place in his physical appearance. Then I casually informed that right now Vishwanath sir is sitting in the same room. The youngster, greatly surprised, looked around only to stare back at me. Finally, with a smile, I revealed that I am the same Vishwanath sir that he has been enquiring about. The youngster was on cloud 9. He proudly announced that he was going to tell all his ex-school friends about his chance meeting with Vishwanath sir in Teju. The test of pudding is in eating, they say. The storytelling sessions that I have carried out in the schools have created great impact on the impressionable mind. What more do one need to carry on the work of storytelling with thousands of thawing Lucies cherishing every moment of it in their whole lifetime? The phone call from Bhushanji broke my daydreams about the Arunachal happenings. The train has already reached Krishnarajapuram near Bangalore. As suggested by Bhushanji, I go down there and took the Lal Bagh Express and reached Bangalore City Railway Station. From there I boarded the last passenger train at 11:55 p.m. and reached Mysore the next day morning. On 20th November 2012, even as I got down to the daily routine, Sri Sanjay Sharma from Dibrugarh rang up and inquired about my safe return and welfare. As I end this travelogue, I silently thanked God for providing thousands of persons like Sri Sanjay Sharma as friends and colleagues during my sojourn on this planet. Thanks to them, during my journeys around the country, I always felt at home, all the time.
ಮುಂದಿನ ನಿಲ್ದಾಣ ಮೈಸೂರು ಗ್ರಾಮಾಂತರ ಬಸ್ ನಿಲ್ದಾಣ. Next stop is Mysore Rural Bus Stand.